Hey everybody. This is just a quick Excel training. This is not, it's really pretty much for one person who sort of requested some Excel training. Janet, Zeus. But maybe other people will get help from it. So this one right here is just the beginning, just the basics, just to sort of show you around. And then I'll get into more advanced stuff, as time goes on. So I'm going to try to keep them brief. I'm going to try to keep them to something like 10 minutes each, something like that. No promises, I don't know. So anyways, this is Excel. You got a new open Excel sheet. The things you need to know. This is the formula bar. This is the function bar. So this is where you're going to write formulas. Now these are cells. So I'm telling you the nomenclature so that you know what I'm referring to later on. These are tabs or sheets. You can create new tabs by clicking the plus button. You can switch between tabs. You can, if you fill this up, you'll have to use these arrows to switch back and forth. Sorry about the cat too, she gets nuts at night. You can rename tabs. You can also recolor tabs as well. So if you want all your green tabs to be related to one specific thing, say, for instance, let's say you want, this tab to be full of expenses, spelled correctly, of course, and maybe you want this tab to be income. Maybe you have a couple of different sources, I don't know. And then maybe you want this tab to be, I don't know, something different. So additional expenses, let's say. You can color them that way. The reason I mentioned the formula bar and the cells, so you can double click in a cell and you can start typing. But you notice it comes up here in the formula bar as well. Janet, knock it off. I'm busy. Zeus, be cool. So, but you can write in this formula bar, and why that matters is because when you get longer formulas, you're not going to be able to see them here. So, for instance, if I start typing equals that plus that divided by that plus 89,000 minus this. See, it's going to start getting confusing here because you should assume that you're going to have some other text and other things written around this area. However, up here, no problem. You can write a nice long thing and you can actually take and extend that out if you need to see more. This function bar is also nice if you're writing text. Now, spreadsheets are used for calculation. There's always some text in it. But if you're writing a bunch of text, don't use, if you're not doing calculations, if you're not using a bunch of numbers, use Word, use something else. She's jealous or something, I don't know. Angry because I'm on the computer. But if you do have to write a bunch of text, you can put notes in here. So notes. To skip down to the next line, hold Alt, Enter. And you can do notes, Alt, Enter, notes. And now in this case, since it's all text, it automatically wrapped. So you can do Format Cells and choose Wrap Text or unchoose it. And see what the difference is it'll wrap the text around. Same thing for numbers if there's numbers in there. So that's a couple of the basic things. Up here you've got your typical formatting stuff like you would see in any Microsoft Office application. Merge and center is really nice. Let me show you what that does. So if I have a heading here and then subheading 1, subheading 2, heading 3, and then some data, right?
What I may want to do is put this heading over all three of these
and I can highlight and do merge and center real quick, and then it merges those 3 cells and centers whatever is in it. Also, you see how these go over the line? They're wider. So you can either take and individually move these by clicking on the divider in between them, or you can just double click and it will automatically go to the correct size. Or you can highlight all 3 and double click on one of them, and it'll do that for all of them. The other thing you can do, you can select multiple ones. By the way, I'm selecting multiples by using either Control or Shift. The difference is if I hold Shift, then it'll select the 2 cells and everything in the middle. So I'm holding Shift here and click. See, it selects everything in the middle. If I do Control, I'm holding Control now and click. Now you see it only does those and not what's in the middle. But let's say I wanted to resize all of these and I want it to be the same exact size. So I can take this, drag it, let go, and now all of these are the same exact width. And that formatting stuff is nice for how you're presenting your data, if you're presenting it to a boss or whoever. So that's some of the formatting stuff. You can also format these values as different types of numbers, just different values. So for instance, we can do currency, and you can pull this down and change it to euro, change it to Chinese, what is that, yen or whatever, and then there's other formats you can choose from. You can also change it to, for instance, percentage. Something interesting about that though is these values are all 1. 1 equals 100%. So be careful about that, because let's say you've got, say you're grading a quiz, and you got a student who gets a 9 out of 10, okay? So equals this divided by 10 would give you a 0.9. Now you might be inclined to say, well, that's a 90, I know that, so what I'll do is I'll take and do equals that times 100. Oops. And I'll get into these formulas more. So now you've got the 90, but watch this. If I put a percent on it, becomes 9,000. 90 is 9,000%. So we don't want to do that exactly. If I put a percent on that, it becomes 90%. 0.9 is 90% mathematically. So you got to be careful with the formatting for percentages in particular. There's a bunch of other things too, like you can add and remove decimal places. Let me see, it's going to be easier if I do it here. Oh. Here we go. Sorry, I was going the wrong way. So you see I'm adding decimal places, and where that matters is, let's say I don't have 23, I got 22.569874.025. So you see it automatically rounds to these 4 digits, but I can decrease that, and it will start to round for us automatically, 22.6, or I can increase those numbers, and it'll start to show the actual values. And that matters when you're doing certain things, things like engineering, or things where tolerances are very critical. If you're doing financial things where you're using very large numbers, but maybe you're applying a factor, each of those decimal places may end up being thousands of dollars if you're using that as a factor onto something. So the decimal places, the number of significant figures depends on the application. And no matter what though, and here's what's interesting, no matter what, it's going to do further calculations based on the actual number, not the number necessarily shown. So that shows 22.6. If I do, for instance, if I multiply this by 10, it should be 226 equals 10 times, should be 226, but it's 225.7. You see, because if we were to add decimals, you see it's actually 22.57. Now, you see there, if I take away one more decimal, it becomes 23. That's what's shown, but the actual value that's held in that cell is whatever I had typed in before. So be careful of that, because it may show a rounded value, but then when you do your calculation, it will use the actual value. And that gets me into calculations. So, and this is where this formula bar gets really nice. You can do all sorts of calculations. So equals this plus this, for instance. Oh, sorry, I added a period at the end of that. And now it's adding those cells. You can do equals 2 plus 2, gives you 4. You can do equals a cell plus a value, a numerical value. You can do equals, let's see, pi, which you remember from high school math is 3.14159 blah blah blah. Let's say times 4, 12.566, and this is going to be a trailing decimal. For that matter, if we can do a simple geometric thing here. So if you remember from geometry, area equals pi, which I can put in the actual value, the actual Greek letter, but I'm not going to try and find it. So pi, I'm just going to call it like that, times r squared. And actually, I might be able to take and make this look a little nicer. Let me see. For some of these, I think maybe if it's text, you can do superscript and subscript. But anyways, so let's say equals pi. It gives us 3.141592654. Interesting. Now if I've got r, so I'm going to call that pi. I'm going to call this r, and let's say that the radius of this circle is 4 inches, centimeters, whatever. If I want to find the area, I can say equals times to the second. And remember, this follows, the math in here follows PEMDAS. So parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. That's the order of operations. So it will do anything in parentheses first, or exponents, and then it will do multiplication, division, and then it does addition, subtraction. And I know people on Facebook and whatever try to confuse folks with math questions that are simple, but the order of operation is screwed up. Remember PEMDAS, and if you're not sure if you're doing something correctly, you can always put parentheses around what you want to be calculated first, just to be certain it will. So for instance, G24 to the second, that's going to go first anyways, because it's an exponent. But if I weren't sure, I could put those parentheses around it, and I'll show you. So our answer here is 50.26. Let's do the same exact thing. So I'm just copy pasting, but I'm going to remove the parentheses, and we should get the same exact answer. Oi. Hang on. Okay. Sorry, I put it in the wrong cell. Okay. Okay, so you see we got the same formula that we had in here, but without the parentheses. Same answer. So you can see the formula up here. Sorry, I'm pointing at my screen. You can see the formula up here. You see the only difference is the parentheses. But because we're putting parentheses around an exponent, it's going to happen before the multiplication anyways. And so it gives us the same answer. So you have to remember PEMDAS. There's a bunch more stuff. That's where I'm going to pause here because I don't want these to be too super long. Try this out. Put in some formulas. You can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There's a ton of functions in here like pi and other things. I haven't even used a bunch of them. You could probably find stuff like, gravitational constant or whatever. And you can find that the different pre-made values are in here somewhere, though, to be honest with you, I'm not sure, because I think the only pre-made value that I've used is pi, to be honest with you. At any rate, however, you can do lots of other stuff as well. I don't want to get too deep into it, but there are lots of functions in here like sum equals the sum of and then I can highlight these values, and you see the syntax, and then close the parenthesis. It gives me the sum. Now I can also do it equals the sum of this, and if I hold shift, then it does the same thing, right? But I can do, let's get rid of that, equals the sum. I'm going to hold control. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you see it's putting those in separately. And same value. The difference is the number of decimal places that it's showing, which again, I can change that. See, same exact value. Or I can actually do this the other way. Oop. So now there's another way I can do it. I can do equals this plus that plus that plus that plus that. That's sort of the easy way to do it. You see I'm getting the same value. So there's more than one way to do these things. You can also do, for instance, if I wanted to do equals average, parentheses, highlight all of these by either dragging them or clicking one, holding shift, clicking the end. Close the parentheses, enter. Okay, that's our average. Let's find the minimum. For minimum equals min, highlight the same values. Okay, the minimum is this 22.569. Let's find the maximum, equals max. This one should be pretty easy to figure out. It's going to be 234. 234. Now you might say, that's silly, that's stupid. Why would I care to put in a formula to find the maximum? I can easily see it's 234. I can easily see the minimum's 22.56, blah, blah, blah. But here we only have 5 data points. If we had 500, 5,000, 50,000 data points, now that's nice because you can put in equals min, equals max, equals average, and highlight that whole thing. You can even highlight a whole column, and then find that super quickly. Min, max, average, you can find median, mode, there are others. So you can also put those things into formulas. So for instance, I can do equals, let's put in pi times average of these values. I'm going to close the second parenthesis, minus minimum of, let's say, all of these values. Now, I have no idea if that's correct. You can do it in a calculator if you want, but I suspect it is. And what this is doing is it's calculating the average of the average of these, and you see this color-coded blue and blue, and it's calculating the minimum of these, red and red. It's doing that first because those are in parentheses, and then it's doing pi times the average, so 3.14, 1592654 times these values, the average of these values, and then it's subtracting 22.5698 from that. So let's see, so actually if we took this value now, equals plus that value, and we got 1923. If I were to do, we're just going to break this down a little bit, equals pi times average, sorry, I got caps lock on. Yeah, times the average of, I think it was these ones we chose, 1923.911. So the reason you might break an equation set down is for simplicity and to check yourself. So oftentimes I'll go through and I'll do several calculations, and then I'll realize I need to check them to make sure that they're proper, that they're correct. And maybe I'll do 1 or 2 samples out of a list of 200 calculations. Pick one towards the top and one towards the bottom. If those 2 are correct, you can be pretty certain that the rest of them are as well. Check 2 or 3 more if you're not confident. Again, I'm going to pause there because this is a lot of stuff. We'll get into some more complex stuff next time, but play around with this and you'll start to figure out how it works. Remember, Excel is for calculations. It's not really for text. the text that you have in here should be things like names, headings, subheadings. You can, of course, like if you're making a grocery list, that makes sense. You can put, in a grocery list, you might put, what food it is, how many you need, quantity, what the cost is, right? What the total cost is, which would be cost times quantity. So let's say fruit, you need 10 fruits, I don't know, they cost $5 each. So equals that times that, $50. And then you can take, for instance, and when you've got a whole line of these, you can find the sum of that. Now you know what your total is. You can take your income and subtract them, things like that. You can also do things from different sheets. I keep saying this, but I'm actually going to stop now because this video is getting too long, and we'll do more stuff next time. So I hope that wasn't too much too quick. Pause it, go back, listen to it again. There are so many features and functions in here, there's no way to put them all into one short video that's easy to to digest at once. So I got to do this in pieces, but what I do next is going to sort of build on this. So keep that in mind. Yes, you're annoying. Kisses? You're just smelling me, huh? All right. Thanks, y'all. See you later. Ouch. Don't bite.